Yo, what's up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I'm going to give you guys my day 2 discoveries for the Lake of Kalandra League. So we have figured a whole lot more out about the mechanic. Now, unfortunately, one of those things is that it kinda is in need of a little bit of a buff in higher red tier maps. When you have stuff like Eldritch Altars, Scarabs, Sextants, the Atlas passive tree fully juiced, it's just not competing on that level in terms of loot. However, it is still reasonably rewarding and pretty good for the Chaos recipe early, so if you are still in white and yellow maps, it might be worth taking a little bit of the info right now from this video and applying it to your own gameplay for a little bit of extra juice while you're farming up some essences or something like that. Okay, so let's dive straight in where we left off in the last video. So I have since gotten 3 of the Exile reflection options here, and I can tell you this is a game changer. After you get 3 Exiles, well, the overall increase to your tile quality is substantial. It's very noticeable. You will basically getting good tiles every time. So let me explain this. Okay, so there are 5 elemental tiles in there. We've talked about that in our last video, and exiling 3 of them will force the game to give you a rare tile in at least one of the options instead of giving you 3 common tiles like constantly. So you can see here I have Reflection of Flame, Reflection of Storm, and Breach. If I exile Flame and Storm, those will no longer be showing up. They're blocked out, so that's pretty good. An additional tip here is if you have your first choice be all commons in a new tablet and you triple exile it, it'll actually refresh the options for free, which will give you a free refresh token, which is pretty damn good, and it'll give you another opportunity to see some more stuff. Generally, if I don't see anything else good on the first tablet here, and I've already exiled 2, and I don't want to exile Breach, but I also don't want to pick it, well, I'll just re-roll it, and then, okay, we have some more stuff here. So we're going to exile Frost here. So we're going to skip here and see, now I have a tile I want to talk about here. So the next thing I want to talk about is embellished tiles. So you can see here, this tile is a little bit different from other tiles. You can see it has a few embellishments here. Now these embellishments mean it is a higher difficulty tile and has much better loot, and in some cases so much good loot that it is actually worth doing a Lake of Kalandra in the endgame. Crazy, I know. However, this is the stuff you need to look out for. If possible, you always want to be picking embellished tiles. So there's 3 levels of embellishment that you can get. Not all league mechanics have all levels of embellishment. We'll talk about that in a second here though, but the core elemental tiles have 3 tiers. So you've got your standard basic tile here with no embellishment, it's just like a rock. Then you have the 2-pronged bronze tiles, which is the first level of embellishment. You have triple-pronged silver tiles, which is this one here. And then you have quad-pronged tiles, which are gold. So there's bronze, silver, and gold, and standard. And obviously, as you go up the tiers, you get better rewards. So just for the elemental tiles, for example, basic tiles give the normal reward chest and the trash, which is like your weapons, armor, and stuff like that. You cannot get weapons, armor, or any of that stuff like jewelry on the embellished elemental tiles. You cannot do that. You'll get stuff like uniques, divination cards, scarabs, and currency every time. And you can also get gems. Those are the 5 I've seen so far, and they're substantially more rewarding. And with triple exiling your tiles, you're very, very likely to get one almost every single board you encounter. Most likely, routinely, you'll have a board full of embellished tiles and league mechanics. That's kind of just how it ends up. Okay. In addition to that, I did mention you can have embellished league tiles. So embellished league tiles are a little bit different. They operate mechanically different. A good example of this is the strongbox embellished tiles. So the base strongbox tile will give you like 5 strongboxes. Okay, they'll be like, unrolled. They'll just give monsters. It's like kind of whatever. They're not particularly exciting or rewarding, especially in the end game. The next level will corrupt all the strongboxes, which, okay, 5 corrupted strongboxes, a little bit better there, but it's still not crazy. However, the final embellishment, which is silver tier, it doesn't go up to gold on strongbox, is going to give you higher rarity strongboxes. Now, this is very worth running. It's basically going to make sure that all 5 of the the strong boxes are Diviner, Cartographer, or Operative. It's basically every single time I've gotten the silver strongbox tile, it's always been all Carto and Operative for me. And you know, you can walk out with 10 or 20 scarabs. It's not too bad. It's definitely worth running. And in addition to that, a fully embellished breach one, I believe that's the silver breach, will always drop a breach stone, for example, which is pretty good. Overall, there are a few ones which are good, and they're always the embellished ones. So you always want to get the ones with the prongs on them. And overall, we'll have a tier list, which I'm going to show you guys in a second here. And you guys are going to be able to take a look at what's best and what's not. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about these rewards. So in a manifesto today, we have got an announcement from Grinding Gear that they are going to buff the rewards. Now, they're under no circumstances bad. You can, walk in there and get piles of currency. You will get piles of currency. It's not terrible. It's probably on the level of a lockpicking contract consistently, and sometimes you can get something which is like reasonably good, like a little bit even better than a heist overall. However, it's not competitive. If you're farming any kind of Eldritch Altars, if you're farming any kind of like map device heist or anything like that, you're just not going to want to run them because it's just more worth your time to put in another map. That's just the simple fact of it. In endgame, they need some love. And in addition to that, the difficulty of Lake of Kalandra, especially when you're doing the mechanic as it is intended and snaking around and creating these massively long chains, is incredibly extreme. It's equivalent to 100% delirium, basically, at the end of your Lake of Kalandra, if not even harder. Some of the mobs in there are basically invincible, especially the Beyond mobs. They're crazy tanky. Okay, so with the elephant out of the room, we now know the final pieces of the puzzle here in terms of how to get the rewards and what we're looking for. Let's talk a little bit about the scaling. So in white maps, you're pretty much going to get one choice consistently. Sometimes you'll get two. But in T16 maps, at least from what I've seen, you always get two options. And I'm talking about the choices remaining. It's always two. So you are literally completing boards at over double the speed, it seems, which is pretty important and pretty relevant, especially after they buff it. It's probably going to be pretty damn strong to be doing it in T16s versus T1s, which is pretty interesting. Next up, this is completely anecdotal, but I feel like I get more embellished tiles in T16s versus T1s. That just seems to be how I feel. And of course, we've already talked about how much better the embellished tiles are. It basically goes from not being worth running at all to basically you should definitely run this with the embellished tiles. So overall, it does seem to be a mechanic that you're going to want to run in higher tiers if possible, and that's definitely going to be the vibe. So overall, I would encourage everyone to do some Machias recipe early. Kind of check it out. Maybe get a few kill stops here and there, but where the real juice is going to be is in endgame in T16 maps, where currently it does fall a little bit short, but it is what it is. All right, moving on, let's talk a little bit more about these things down here. These Exile, these Refresh, and these Reroll. These are the juice. You need to get these. Without these, it's going to be pretty miserable in terms of getting rewards and building your lake. The first and foremost, you need to get the Exiles. You need 3 out of 3 if you want to make any sort of decent and reasonable currency and have this mechanic be competitive. Now, I've talked about a little bit about how to see these. You can just hover over them and that's really great. However, how do you unlock the first one to even be able to see what you need to unlock? Well, you can go back in my other video, but you can guarantee unlock a singular Exile to see the other ones by going ahead and doing a difficulty level 8 Legion. So that's basically 8 distance. You can do that and you'll get the unlock for that one. Now, in addition to that, you can do a reflection level 6 essence to get the first refresh token, and those are the only ones you really need, and then you should go ahead and unlock those, and then you'll be kind of, good to go. And it's really clear and really, really important that you need to be using all of these every single Lake of Kalandra you construct, especially the refreshes and exiles. You should use the exiles immediately, and then whenever you don't get a really good embellished tile or something to add to your lake, or you're fishing for the movement of the entrance, you can go ahead and re-roll the options. In addition to that, you should always, in every single tablet, be moving the entrance. It's pretty consistently easy to get a movement one. It's unlucky if you don't. You should try and construct the tablet with that in mind. You probably will get the movement to the entrance, especially if you're exiling, so you can kind of plan around that. It's fairly consistent to do so, and it is definitely going to increase your reward substantially, and overall that's going to be where it's at. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about a conspiracy theory here. So overall, it has been noticed and noted that there is something funny going on with loot, and Lake of Kalandra is no exception to that. There is some funny business going on, without a doubt. We've got multiple reports, with me included, of killing a metamorph in Lake of Kalandra and getting no loot. It drops like 3 rares, and it's like at the end of the chain. So there was like no catalysts, there was like no anything really, man. So that's a bit funny. I think something a bit, maybe it's a bit bugged or something like that. In addition to that, even if you put an expedition at the start versus the front, you actually get guaranteed reroll currencies from expedition. It doesn't scale it at all. You will get 3 exotic coins whether you place it right next to the entrance or all the way at the end and juice it all the way up. So I can pretty much confirm that the elemental tiles scale correctly with distance. That's fine. Haven't had any issues with that. But my goodness, the league mechanic tiles do not scale. They absolutely don't. I have noticed it with Harbinger. I get the same amount of shards. I'm not seeing any increases there. I think it might be a little bit off. Maybe hopefully someone looks into that over at Grinding Gear. But I digress. That is all there is to do on that one. Okay, so we've gone over the lakes, we've gone over everything you need to know. Let's go into a bit of a tier list, so you guys, if you want to run them, can look out for specific tiles. All right, so let's cover it up first. All right, we have 5 tiers. We have bad, which means I would never place it on my board, and if I do place it on my board, I'm skipping it. We have mediocre, which is like, okay, you could probably place it on the board. You could probably do it. We have, it's pretty okay loot, which is green, and we have always pick. And finally, needs more info, which means I haven't gotten it enough, and I haven't run it enough to really say if it's bad or good or whatever yet. All right, so let's start it out, this is all of the options. You can take a look at over on PoEDB. They have all the reflections over there, and this is basically what you have to work with. Okay, so first up we have Breach. So Breach in basic and bronze version are, in my opinion, not worth running. They're basically a harder version of Breaches in maps, and they have, the same loot, which is kind of like, okay, that's a little bit, not so great. And you also cannot influence it like you can in maps by applying a Chilulus Excellence or anything like that. So definitely not those two. Lastly, though, we have the Silver Breach, which basically guarantees you a Breach Lord, which is going to drop a Breach Stone. This isn't always include. Grab it whenever you get it. Obviously a Breach Stone can be like 10 to 40 C or something like that, depending on which one you get, and that's pretty damn good. Next up, Delirium. I haven't run this one enough to really test it, but I imagine if you're increasing the difficulty even more than it already is, especially in higher tiers, it's going to be pretty hard. So maybe that one, exercise caution on that one. Next up is the elemental ones. So as I mentioned, these are probably the most consistent loot that you'll get, and the embellished ones do seem to have a way better drop table, and I would definitely encourage people to check those out. If you want to try and use this mechanic to get some loot, those are the ones to look at. So the basic elemental tiles, they have the bad reward pool. After you get past the first few map tiers, like you're into reds, and you're kind of really trying to juice it up, it's basically not even worth finishing these encounters anymore, because you will most of the time get armor, jewelry, or weapons. You basically just run past, save some time, don't even worry about it, skip the basic elementals if they end up on your board, and just skip straight to the embellished ones. That's going to be where you get some semblance of a reward. All right, next up, bronze, silver, and gold elemental tiles. These are quicker than the base elemental tiles for some reason. They generally have 1 to 3 mini bosses, which you can kill fairly quickly if you have a geared character, and they do drop better rewards. As I mentioned, divination card, uniques, and all sorts of stuff like that. You can expect to get some better stuff, and they can actually be worth running. But again, when you compare this to stuff like map device farming with heist and legion and essence, it's not actually close in terms of the currency you can earn, which has been unfortunate. Next up, we have ambush. Okay, the first 2 ambushes, you could get lucky and get an operative or something like that, but I haven't gotten anything good from running the basic ambush or the bronze ambush. However, the silver ambush, which is the one which gives you high rarity ones, is pretty damn good. I always get some good stuff from that. I always get some scarabs. I'm pretty happy with that. And especially in higher tiers, you can get the Cartos from box, and it'll give you some red maps, which is pretty nice. Next up, essence. Okay, so I'm not too sure about this one. Base essence is just worse than map essence because, you don't have the Alice nodes. They're not going to be duplicated. They're not going to be always shrieking. It's just worse. The other 2 I have not experimented with yet. I haven't gotten them enough to really give you a good opinion on that, but I've heard that you can get quite a lot of corrupted essences on the silver version of essence, so that might be worth looking into as well. Next up, Harbinger. These are in a pretty sad state. Unfortunately, they're kind of, like a little bit whatever. The rewards seem pretty underwhelming, and they're a pretty damn hard encounter to boot. Because they scale so drastically with the amount of life. and defenses that happen when you put it later on in the lake. So overall, Harbinger's been a bit underwhelming for me. I don't have enough information on the higher tier ones to like give you a definitive answer, but the base Harbinger, at least for me, not very exciting. Not happy with that one. Domination, all of them are bad. None of them give any loot multipliers or scaling. They're basically just monsters, and Lake of Kalandra doesn't have any inherent loot multiplier on it, from what I can see, and it doesn't have any divination cards, so it's kind of just like whatever. The domination ones, not impressed. I wouldn't take those unless you want to kind of get some cool buffs, but you know, okay, the Kalandra tile, I haven't gotten this once in the entire league, so it's definitely very rare. When you do get it, you should always pick it, but you shouldn't run it. You should sell the tablets to another player so that they can you know, get some juice out of it. But yeah, if you get this, it's going to be big money. I imagine this is going to be the recombinators of the league, because you can get items with 6 reflected mods, and they're all positive. So you can get, in theory, a 12 modifier ring, which is, you know, pretty cool, and you can force it to be one of the good rings using this Kalandra mirror tile. So always pick it. I would always put it at the end of the layout as well, so it has the best chance of being a juicy one, Exile. Overall, that's what I would do. Next up, Metamorph. This seems bugged. I don't know what's going on here. I wouldn't pick any of them. Next up, Expedition. All right, so this is one of the better tiles. I put it in purple here, even though I think it's bugged as well. It doesn't scale. However, it does drop reroll currencies. And you know, exotic coins are worth 4C. You'll get 3 of them, unfortunately, every time. And then you will also have a chance at getting some burial medallions, which is, you know, pretty good. It's a bit weird because there's only bronze expedition, but there's 4 different what are they called? 4 different factions. You'll see the faction before you put it on, so you can decide whether you want to put it on or not. But overall, when you compare this to maps, come on, man, like I get 4 exotic coins from 1 incubator, dude. Are you kidding me? Seriously, man. I think this needs to be way better. Come on, man. Next up, we have Legion, which is just terrible, unfortunately, because they're so tanky compared to maps. They're actually almost invincible, the generals at least. It's very, very hard to clear, and you also don't have the boost to damaging monsters in stasis, which you have from the Alice passive tree, so it's incredibly difficult to break everything out, making it very, very difficult. Even though it does have warhordes and generals and stuff like that, you can get that already on maps for free, and it's way easier to do, and you also get all of the bonuses from being in maps, like Eldritch Altars and all sorts of stuff like that. So I wouldn't recommend putting Legion under any circumstances other than unlocking your Lake of Kalandra tiles. So we'll get rid of that. And then we have Torment. So Torment's a bit of an interesting one here. This tier list will obviously get updated after the buff. Torment's a bit of an interesting one here. We have the first 2, which are pretty underwhelming. However, the last one, the silver one, I'm not sure what's going on, but I've gotten 2 raw divine drops from the ghosts from it. So I think there could be some potential here. I think you could definitely get something good, and I would definitely look into Torment, silver embellishment. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I have gotten 2 divines, and I've gotten this tile 3 times. So it could be pretty good there. You might get some pretty juicy loot there, Exile. All right, next up, Delve. It just gives you Sulfite Nazarite. Most mappers aren't going to be interested in this. Maybe if you're a Delver, you could be interested in this. I'm not too sure. The next one is Untainted Paradise. So this one gives an absolutely obscenely ridiculous amount of XP. It's ridiculous, man. If you're looking to power level, or you're looking to just get a few levels, it's crazy. I think at 91, it gave me like a third of a level just from doing it, and it wasn't fully min-max. Like I didn't have it at the end of my setup or anything like that. It is very, very good. I would recommend getting this every single time you can get it. It's going to give you some juicy XP. Multiple people in my chat say they got like 3 levels from it in theirs. It's pretty damn cool. And lastly, the meme one, Angling. It gives you Krill Swolson, or whatever it's called, the Krillson, which is, you know, just a meme. You don't need to take that one. Okay, interestingly enough, over on PoEDB, you can actually notice that there is a few of the tiles which actually have not been included in the game. I haven't seen them at all when I'm playing. And those are Bestiary and Abyss. These ones I actually feel like could have been pretty interesting. So the Bestiary one, I imagine, would have had red beasts. And if you could get like a Chimera or a Farrell or something like that, that would have been awesome, man. I would have thought that would have been one of the better ones to include, you know, some rare beasts, because beasts are pretty expensive, and like getting some good ones, hell yeah, I'm down. But it seems like they're not included for some reason, which is pretty sad because we saw that in the trailer and it's clear that they were in the game. So I'd really like to see these make a return if we could see that happen. Next up is Abyss. I imagine this probably would have been not that rewarding, but you know, it would have been cool to have it. Overall, Not sure where that is, but you know, that one's not there as well. It kind of makes me feel like they might have run out of time a little bit with this league mechanic, especially because we're not seeing that many of the league mechanics that we're used to. You know, like there's no like no June, you know, there's none of that, which is kind of a bit strange. Next up, I did miss Scourge here, which overall I just haven't done enough testing on Scourge. Some people say they've gotten some pretty good results from it, but I warn you, it is real hard. Even in maps, Scourge is really hard. So at the end of a Lake of Kalandra, whew, oh boy, that's going to be a doozy. All right, so I'm going to link this tier list down below in the description. Overall, I hope you guys have gotten a little bit more info out of this. It pretty much fully completes the picture of Lake of Kalandra. We have all the information. We've done a lot of the testing. However, I'm putting this video out here to tell you right now, it's not comparable to doing T16 maps right now, and it's just not rewarding enough. What I'm doing is I'm building my lakes and I'm stashing them for later. Hopefully the buffs makes them way, way stronger, and we'll have to do another video then. So until then, no more lakes for now. Pretty sad. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.